Hey everybody, how are you? My name is Alison Lessard and I'm an intuitive guide, and I'm very excited to be participating in this year's Tarot Summer School. So a little bit about me, a little bit about the workshop that I'm offering and why. My workshop is a twin flame tarot workshop. So I want to explain how I came to do this work. I started as a healer about 10 years ago, professionally doing body work. So I was doing Reiki and energy healing, and also was a licensed massage therapist. And tarot came into play for me later. So I started out doing the energy healing, and then eventually I picked up a tarot deck that I had purchased a long time ago and started to play around with it, and it just stuck. I loved it. And after that I started to do readings for people. But that's not how I actually started as a healer. So at the end of maybe 2015, I decided to start a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel was to share the information that I was getting in my meditations and in my personal healing time about this twin flame connection. When I heard that term about 10 years ago, it didn't hold any personal meaning for me. I mean, I remember getting a card deck of oracle cards. In fact, it was the Doreen Virtue Ascended Masters Oracle deck, if I'm not mistaken, that one and another one of her decks. And both of the decks had this twin flame card in it, and at the time, I mean, I just thought it was a soulmate relationship, like it's a love relationship, and that's all that it meant. And a few years later, it became apparent to me in my own both personal experience and through my meditations that this was a lot more important than I realized. And there's a reason why I was seeing these things early on before it like meant anything. And so at the end of 2015, around there, I decided to compile all the information that I was getting through my meditations, and decided to make a series of videos on YouTube about this twin flame journey. So that's how I started on YouTube. And here we are, 5 years later, and it really, really has, sort of surprisingly become a very important part of my work. So for this year's workshop, for my contribution, I'm offering this Twin Flame Tarot workshop, first and foremost because I feel like a lot of people have heard of this term now. And if you're a reader, if you're a tarot reader, then you've probably already been getting clients that are asking you about this. If it's not something that you're super well versed in yourself, or it's not something that you're personally experiencing, I think that it could pose a lot of challenges as a reader. And I know that because I've been doing these readings for a long time now. So I want to offer this workshop, this Twin Flame Tarot workshop. So I'm just pulling up my little outline so I can cover the bullet points here. So what I want to offer, and why I think this is so important, is because these soul connections, these deep soul connections, are such an important part of our both personal and spiritual growth. The thing about this twin flame journey is that there's a lot of information now out there on the internet, and some of it is contradictory, so you might not be sure what to tell people if they call you for this. And like I said, it's not your personal experience. You might have a lot of questions, or they may have a lot of questions for you that you're finding are difficult to answer. And so part of what I want to cover in the workshop are obviously some basic 101s of the twin flame journey from my personal experience over the last 10 years. And sort of some of the basics as far as these conscious, or what I like to call, evolutionary relationships, because they help evolve us. They help activate deep parts of our soul that need to be integrated. They help us see our shadow side. So the connections are very important. But there is a lot of also belief systems that are attached to this term that as a reader, or even if you're just reading for yourself, you might find challenging. So I just thought this would be a really helpful workshop for a lot of people, because when I started my YouTube channel, this wasn't as mainstream. Even just 5 years ago, there was hardly any information about it on the internet. So the videos that I was sharing were literally coming from my own divine guidance, from my higher self, because I couldn't find information on the internet. So now when you Google that term, you're going to find a ton of information. So you might be confused. So what I want to cover in the workshop obviously are some basics, some 101s. I'd like to cover how, like I said, these connections activate us on a deep soul level to both personally and spiritually evolve really at an accelerated pace in this lifetime. I'd like to offer you guys some tarot spreads for this type of guidance, for this kind of relationship guidance. So I'm gonna create some specific spreads for you. I'd like to help you guys learn how to handle your clients that are coming to you if you're a professional reader, and how to manage their expectations when it comes to this topic. And if you're not a professional tarot reader, then this could help you, if you're interested in this topic, to manage your own expectations if you want to give yourself a reading. I'd like to navigate, or in one of the videos, teach you guys how to deal with the challenging emotions that tend to come up with these kinds of readings, because again, these connections really do show us both our light attributes and our shadow attributes, and the shadow attributes can be a lot to discuss in a reading, so I think that all of this will be really valuable. I want to do some content on how to pose the questions in a way that allow you to get the highest level guidance, as opposed to yes or no questions and things like that. And I'd also like to talk about the difference between fear and conditions when it comes to love and relationship, and the difference between that and unconditional love when you're doing this kind of relationship reading. Because again, sometimes the way that we pose a question can give us, a very different kind of answer from the tarot. So I think it's important the way that we pose the questions and what we're actually asking, and keeping an open mind so far as what we're receiving from the tarot. So I'm going to cover all of this and more in the workshop this summer. I'm so happy to be a part of this, and I look forward to connecting with you personally. Thank you guys so much.